Hi, Caleb from Brownells here, and in today's video we're going to be building a Ruger 1022 clone using the Brownells BRN-22 receiver. So if you're not familiar, the BRN-22 receiver is exactly what I just said it is. It's basically a 1022 receiver that fits pretty much all the Ruger factory parts, so it fits all the aftermarket parts as well. And if you want to build your own 22, they are super affordable. So if you want to do a high-end build, these are machined to match grade. So they'll work really well with a super high-end match grade build. But because they're affordable, you could do a budget build with these as well and still end up with a really good product here. So with that being said, let's kind of jump right into the build, and I'll go through the rest of the parts as we put everything together. All right, now the vise I'm going to be using is the Brownells Gunsmith vise with the micarta vise pads in here so that we don't mess anything up. And with that, I will say this this receiver is available with and without the integral machined in top rail. So this one is the detachable top rail, and this is just a weaver base for a Ruger 1022 because the whole spacing is exactly the same, so I just threw this on here. But if you prefer, you can get one with the rail machined in to the top of it, so it's not a separate piece, it's just all one solid block. And then this one is the clear anodized. It's also available in a black anodized. And then this is also the one I've built out for the last 2 SHOT Shows we did. So this one is, you'll notice this one is a little bit beat up because it's been banged around, handled by everybody. With that, obviously, if you get one, they won't be in rough shape like this one. So let's go ahead and start off with the first step. And I'm going to go ahead and just gently clamp this in the vise here, because the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and install the barrel. So the barrel itself, we're using a Bayer barrel here. This is their lightweight. So although it is a bull barrel profile, it's actually aluminum, so it's solid aluminum with a steel liner that goes through where the actual rifling and stuff is. So it's a hybrid of steel and aluminum. And it is, of course, threaded. Comes with the thread protector on here. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew that because we will be installing a suppressor. So we'll just set that aside. Alright, so at this point, what I like to do is just take a little bit of grease here. I'm using Brownells Action Lube Plus, and I'm just going to put a small amount on this barrel piece here that goes into the receiver, this tenon here. Alright. And then I'm going to go ahead and with the flat on the bottom, and the flat on the bottom is going to go towards the bottom, we're just going to press this into place here. Alright, that went in pretty easy. If you're having trouble getting yours in, if you have a really tight fit, you can use a heat gun, heat everything up, and it'll slide right in. So what you want to do here is get this flat on the barrel as close as you can to flat with the bottom of the receiver, because we're going to install our V-block here. And let me put this in. And I'll turn this towards you a little bit. I'll actually hold it like this so you can get a better view. There we go. And I'm going to turn it back this way just to here so I can see. Alright, so the V-block, this one right here will go on either way. Notice how there's a V cut in one side of it, hence the name V-block. That is literally just going to go between your receiver and your barrel. And this is, once this is torqued down, this is what holds your barrel into your receiver. Alright, so I'm going to take my 2 screws, so it'll be the 2 longer screws you have here. And for the V-block and the screws, we're just using the Ruger factory components. But what you want to do is position your V-block, and we'll just get our screws started by hand. And we will take a 5/32 Allen wrench. The ball end wrenches are great for this, so you can get in at an angle. And you just want to screw these all the way in. And if you were off on your alignment just a little bit, that's okay. This V-block will kind of force everything into alignment here. And I'll show you how to double check that it did, of course, do that. So we're just going to snug one screw just until it stops. We're not going to put any torque on it yet. Then we're going to do the other screw. Same exact thing. Alright, so now I'm going to put a little bit more torque on them. I'm going to snug them up pretty good. Alright, and to make sure the alignment is correct, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, and let me find a pointing tool here. I'll just use this. I'm going to look between this gap on the V-block and the barrel, like where that angle right there meets. I'm going to hold it up to the light, and I'm going to look down it. I shouldn't be able to see any light through that, and it should look, and if you look at the flat on the bottom, typically you can see light through those, and it should just look nice and even. And it's pretty easy to see. There's no real easy way to show this on camera. But if you're doing one of these, you eyeball it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so once you have those snugged up, you can actually go ahead and torque them down. And I'm going to go ahead and set my torque wrench to 20 inch-pounds is perfectly fine for this. So we'll just torque those to 20 inch-pounds. They're kind of tricky to get to here, but you certainly can get to them. Alright. And then we won't need to torque anything else until we get to our stock screw. Now, what we will go ahead and do is install the bolt and the charging handle. So for the bolt, what we're actually using here, I'll just set it on the table. This is a Brownells bolt, and again, these are machined to be match grade quality. They fit really well with these receivers, and of course they are still very affordable. This one is titanium nitride. You can also get them in stainless steel, and you can get them in black nitride. But what we're going to do, we'll take our charging handle. This is a Power Custom charging handle. You can use, your favorite charging handle. And also, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put up the grease. I'm not going to need the grease anymore. I'll lubricate all this stuff as I assemble it. And I like to use a pretty lightweight grease, or lightweight oil. I believe this is a Slip 2000 I have in here. But any lightweight oil is great. I like the lighter weight oil stuff for my rimfire guns. And then I'll use some heavier weight stuff for pretty much everything else. Okay. So your charging handle, what you're going to do, you're just going to come in through your ejection port here. And you're just going to place the back end of that charging handle into the slots that's cut for it in the receiver. And I can't see what I'm doing right now, but you should be able to see it pretty good. Yep, that looks good. So it should sit in there just like so. Alright, now what we're going to need to do, I'll go ahead and put a little bit of lube on it before I do that. But I'll just run some down this guide rod and spring. And I'll just do one side of it. You don't need to go crazy. And then I'll put some along the part that rubs against the inside of the receiver. And then we'll set it in there. Alright, so now what we need to do is actually push this back. Alright, so let me get this back in the vise so I can free up some of my hands while I show you this here. And let me see what the best way, probably best if I just hold it by the barrel. That way we can both see it. Alright, so now what I want to do is pull this charging handle back. And the easiest way to do that is just take your index finger, grab the front of it, and slide it back. Slide it back as far as it'll go. And if you're using a power custom charging handle like I am here, notice that retaining piece fell out, which is no problem. Alright, so once I pull it back with my index finger, I'll just capture it with my other hand so that I can hold it without being in the way of the inside of the receiver. Because now I want to take my bolt, I almost said bolt carrier group, I've been doing too many AR-15s lately. Just take your bolt, and you are going to push it all the way to the rear, and push the front end down. And you might need to kind of wiggle things around to get it to drop into place. And it is now dropped into place, so we can just let it go forward. Alright. Now the bolt is installed, okay? So what we're going to do now is install our buffer. And once our buffer is in there, our bolt won't be able to come back far enough to come out of the receiver. So that'll keep everything in place. Also, another thing you want to check, and another way to check the barrel alignment, is to make sure that the extractor, which is this piece right here that pulls the rim of the cartridge out, you want to make sure that extractor is fitting into the extractor cut on the barrel. So this is kind of hard to see on camera. It'd probably be actually a little easier to see from the bottom there as it goes into that slot. You just want to make sure that those two are mating together okay. Alright, now, like I said, we can go ahead and install that buffer. The Ruger factory buffer is a piece of steel. A bunch of other companies make a different material, such as the Volquartsen one. That is a type of rubber. I don't know exactly what kind it is, but it is a soft material. And those are great because they just kind of, whenever that bolt's cycling, instead of hitting steel, it's just hitting a soft buffer and then coming back forward. And you can actually notice it if you're shooting a suppressor. You can actually hear it slapping that steel piece. So it actually makes it a little bit quieter if you're using a suppressor. And these just press right into place, nice and easy. And the Volquartsen one, they put a nice bevel on both sides of them, so they're easy to press into place. Some other companies, they just, literally just cut them flat, and you'll struggle forever to get that thing to go in there if you don't put a bevel on it. So what I just usually take a piece of sandpaper. We did this in a video on a previous build, but I just rub it on the sandpaper to put a bevel on it. But that's it. So the Volquartsen ones are super affordable. Honestly, just buy these. They're great. And they drop right in. Okay. Now we can just put a little bit more oil on there. And what I'm doing, I'm just kind of running it down the side here. And just putting it in there behind the bolt. And if you run the bolts a few times, you'll see where the friction area is. So just put a little bit of lubricant on that friction area. Like you can see all up in here. I'll just put a little bit there. And you can see where the receiver is rubbing on the bolt right here. We'll put some right there. And that sounds better already. Okay. Now we can go ahead and install our fire control group. So if you're using a different brand, like the Ruger factory one, or like the Ruger 5 or whatever, or just BX Trigger Group. I'm thinking of their magazine. But they all install the same way. I'm using a Volquartsen one here. This is the Volquartsen one with the extended mag release paddle, which is super nice. Just a billet aluminum piece here that just feels really good. These are super high quality, but they are quite expensive. But if you're doing any kind of competition shooting or anything like that, or you just want a really, really nice trigger, these are well worth the money. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll actually just go ahead and put a little bit of lubricant on the hammer where the bolt's going to be pushing it down at. I'll just put some there now. And then you just simply flip it upside down. Align the holes in the receiver with the holes in the trigger group. And then install your pins. These pins here are the Ruger factory one that I'm using. And they will just press right in there. Other companies make different pins with like detent retainers and stuff built into them. So those are also a good option, but these work just fine. Alright, so we have the pins in there, and we are already almost done, to be honest with you. So, let's talk about the stock. The stock I'm going to be using, this is a Victor company stock. And this is one of the best 1022 stocks. This is by far my favorite one that's not a chassis. And I'm wiping off this butt pad here. I just pulled it out the packaging and just kind of cleaning it up here. Alright, but the stock itself, it has QD swivels built into it. It has 2 sling studs on the bottom, so if you're using a traditional style sling, you can mount there. You have a traditional sling stud on the bottom and the rear, you can mount there. And then you have QD swivels, or QD plugs, I should say, on each side of the rear. And just a very nice, ergonomic, like palm swell type grip. So it's good for left-hand or right-handed shooters. And the cheek piece is like the perfect height for the top of that handguard, or excuse me, the top of that rail. Overall, just a really good stock. It has aluminum blocks in the front and the rear, so your 2 main contact points. So it's almost like using a chassis as far as the lockup is concerned. So where your front screw comes through, you have a nice and solid mount area there. And then in the rear, this is a solid billet aluminum block that has some adjustment in it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to adjust it. When you get this stock, it's going to come with this small tipped set screw. So there's a brass piece on the end of it here. And what we're going to do is we're going to install that. If you look in the rear of the stock, there's a hole that's threaded. It will go right into that hole. And that is going to help tension the receiver. So what we're going to do, I'm actually just going to get it started, and I'll show you on the bottom here. You can see the bottom side of that hole. I'm just going to thread it in until that brass piece is just flush with the bottom of that hole. Almost there. Alright, and I put it slightly below flush on mine. But what that's going to do is that brass piece that's sticking down is going to be touching this shelf on the back of your trigger group, okay? So it's going to help make sure there is no possible slop whenever your receiver is mounted into your stock. So I will just go ahead and drop these in. And also, when you're installing this, you want to put your safety, or your safety button here as close as you can to the middle position, and then drop it in. And I have the extended paddles on this, so this is going to be a little trickier to do. I might actually have to take those paddles off I will, to get them in the stock. But if you're using a standard trigger group, you won't have to do this step. I'm just going to pull these off real quick here. Alright, those will come right off, and we can drop it in. Alright, so at this point, what I want to do is take my screw. This is a Volquartsen screw that just attaches the stock to the receiver, and this is a 1/8. Alright, so you'll tighten this down, this screw down, and you don't need to torque it down just yet. Just tighten it nice and snug. And I want to make sure you find the threads here. You'll be able to feel the threads catch in the receiver once you're in the right spot. Just like that. And snug it up. Now, to make sure you have that rear screw tensioned properly, what you want to do is move the receiver up and down from the barrel here. Your barrel will have a little flex, so you want to look at the receiver and see if your receiver is actually moving any, because that screw is to just take out that slop. So I'm going to push down on my barrel, so pull down on my barrel, and then I'm going to push up in the back with my thumb, and if it moves, then we need to tighten that screw a little bit. And it moved a little bit, so we'll go ahead and tighten that screw. So, you'll need to put your safety in the middle position to get it out the stock. And what I'm going to do is tighten down that screw just a little bit. And repeat that process. And if you went too far, you won't be able to get the action back into the stock. And yeah, we went just a hair too far. So maybe quarter turn, and we'll be right where we need to be. Quarter turn. Let's see, I was here, and yeah, we'll do quarter turn. And check the fit again. And it goes in kind of tight, but it goes all the way in by hand without me really forcing it. Alright, so now we just need to realign. You can kind of look through your hole down there and see if your screw hole's aligned. And just push that stock, or push the action back into the stock a little bit if it's not. That feels pretty good. And if it's not quite there, just hold the gun by the barrel and just tap it on your bench like so. And that should put us where we need to be. And then we can just tighten it down. And also, we can switch to our torque wrench. And this can also be torqued at 20 inch-pounds. So the only number you really need to remember for your 1022 is 20. I mean, if you really wanted to it probably wouldn't hurt anything to go an extra 2 more pounds. So you could just remember that like 1022 is torqued at 22 inch-pounds. And that would be okay. And I will find the right size driver here momentarily. Alright, there's 20 inch-pounds, and I'm gonna go a little bit more. We'll go 25 inch-pounds. There. And that is all there is to it. As far as magazines go, obviously any standard 1022 magazine will work just fine. And let's go ahead and install our suppressor mount. So most rimfire suppressors are direct thread, but we are using the dead air, and this one I set somewhere right here. This one is, I get like RXD, almost said RDX again, but it's the RXD 22 Ti that Dead Air did in collaboration with Ruger. So just a really cool, very effective, easy to clean suppressor. And it uses a Xeno mini mount, which is pretty nifty. And this just actually uses a standard AR armor's wrench as far as the flats go. So if you have any AR-15 tools at all, one of these will fit just fine. Or should fit just fine. A little bit of a tight gap right there. Alright, so we will use a even smaller wrench to get in there because that barrel is pretty thick. And I have a Brownells BRN-4 wrench here, so we'll just use that. And typically I would put some torque on this thing and tighten it down pretty good, but for these rimfire ones, I just go hand tight because I have plenty of leverage on the tool itself. If you're trying to do it by hand, you'll want to use something to get that extra on there. And then the suppressor goes on. And the reason I like to get a little bit of extra torque on it is because when you unscrew this, the muzzle device will unscrew with the suppressor, especially if you've been shooting it a lot. Which is honestly no big deal. If you want to kind of use it as a direct thread, that's fine too. But we just tighten that down, just like so. And then this is the SIG Romeo 5 that we're using for an Optic. And I'll just leave this at that same torque setting. We'll grab a T10 Torx bit. And we will tighten this thing onto our receiver. Alright, and as you notice, there's a little bit of forward and back play. Good practice to, whenever you're mounting optics on rails, always push them forward before you torque them. And we'll actually back that off just a hair. We'll go back down to 20 inch-pounds. And there we go. Alright, the last thing we need to do before we forget is to put these paddles back on our mag release. And they have these indexing pins so that they will only go on one way. Let me figure out which side I'm holding here. And if you're a right-handed shooter, you could potentially just, leave, or if you're a left-handed shooter, you could just leave that left side on so you can activate it with your index finger. But I'm going to go ahead and put both sides on because I shoot lefty. My oldest son is right-handed. And then I have another son that's a left-handed shooter as well. So my household is all messed up as far as that goes. And we'll tighten this back down. And on these particular screws, if you want, you could use a little bit of thread locker. So if you want to use some Loctite, blue Loctite would be fine. Some Vibratite would be okay. But I'm just going to snug these up. Alright, and that feels pretty good. Now with these Volquartsen triggers, you can adjust your over travel and your pre-travel on them. But I'm just going to go ahead and feel it and kind of see how it is. I might actually not touch it at all. Yeah, I'm not. The way this comes from the factory. I've never had a Volquartsen like trigger group that I pulled out the box and installed and thought that I needed to change it. So we're going to leave this exactly how it is. And then all that's left to do now is to actually go shoot this thing. But with that being said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, experience with any of these products, let us know in the comments down below. And please go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button for more content just like this. If you like this super relaxing, just chill build content, we build all kind of stuff here. And as always, if you need help with anything for any reason ever, feel free to give us a call on the tech line. We'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.